Hi everyone and welcome back to another video. Today we will be doing a quick hot summary of all the questions and answers from this Friday's Star Citizen Live.
Please, can we have maps, signposts in the modular space stations? It's very easy to get lost in them since they all have similar looks but different layouts. Do you have some kind of long-term goal in mind for each of the landing zones, additional areas, gameplay, POIs, etc., or are you going to improve them as you go with whatever comes to mind? Will we have ground transportation between cities, like railroads? Will there be a more hostile dungeon type area in the future that are larger and more complex than the existing ones used for missions like the evict illegal occupants? My friends and I really enjoy these sorts of FPS missions right now, but they are so small and short. Will we see expansion and more diversity in caves in the future? For example, ones that are wide enough to drive a small vehicle into, ones with underground lakes, ones made by ice or crystals. This person's got a lot of ideas here. Will we see locations in Loreville, which will allow players to work within cities? For example, the ability to work within an underground mine within the Loreville city limits. This would allow you to get, and then they go into like, yeah, we can make profit inside the cities. There are many things people want. Whatever happened to the secret entrance to Loreville? Now that we have New Babbage, will places like Loreville be upgraded to New Babbage standards, such as a no-fly zone removal, textures, layout, etc.? Like New Babbage, can we expect to see more fluid movement between landing zones, the planet's surface, and ships? So what is the current status of development on secondary locations and structures, like the ones we showed off at CitizenCon 2017 around Loreville? With things like basically the smaller outposts that are supposed to surround the bigger ones, I suppose, is what they're getting at, if I remember CitizenCon 2017. When designing locations, do you where do you start? Do you start with do you start drawing the thing out on paper? Do you start with a formal like 2D design, or do you start with a 3D concepting, or like white boxing like a ship? Where do you start? Can you think of a time when the proposed art style influenced your layout design? Like you were originally thinking, one thing, like sharp right turns, it's like that, and then you saw the art style, and you're like, oh no, we want to open this up a bit more. It's how does art influence your design? Is his shirt pink? What's happened to the ice caves from the CitizenCon demo? The current caves on Microtech seem to be copy pasted from other moons. Will the roofs on ArcCorp make it possible to land small ships in Area 18 and take an elevator down instead of having to go through the tram or stuff like that? What ideas can you share about encouraging the use of ground vehicles in gameplay over ships? Besides the refinery, cargo, and commercial stations, what can we expect as far as other kinds of stations or orbital structures? What density and service locations are we shooting for in the final product? Right now, we have giant moons and planets with maybe a dozen or so places to visit each, making for miles and miles of land completely unused and mostly unexplored by players. So next question is about procedural tools and how they apply to major landing zones. I guess the first question is, do they? Do we use procedural tools when developing the major landing zones? Are there plans to adjust hangars so the openings aren't so tight, or a more variety of ship parking like runways or multi-story car parks, or even communal hangars? One of the great, basically, they're looking for more ways to store the ships than just the boxes and the landing pads that we have now. Will we see a return of AI traffic landing at landing zones? What considerations do you make for a PU that will eventually have more than 50 players? From a level design perspective, what gameplay features are you most looking forward to? And what are you waiting for to really to open you up to possibilities? Why are there often trains between the habs in our spaceships? I find it quite tedious and would love to have a landing zone where I wake up next to a hangar. What's been your favorite area to work on so far? How did Jumptown come about, and what are our thoughts on another Jump? Is there a Jumptown 2 in our future? Can you implement movement in the cranes in Lorville? Will the food vending machines have functionality and video game machines have operational minigames? Will refinery decks and cargo decks be present at all rest stops? Do you plan on adding secret, unmapped locations, rest stops, or stations in deep space? Will planets that are inhabited eventually be populated with smaller, procedurally generated cities and other facilities and missions beyond box deliveries instead of just minor outposts? Will locations that are currently static have damage states if they're attacked, or degradation if there's not any maintenance done to them? Roads. Where we're going, will we need roads? Will there still be a replacement for Port Olisar? And if so, will the old Port Olisar be left in game as a derelict station? What can you tell us anything about Port Olisar?
Thank you everybody for watching my video. If you've liked it, hit the like button and subscribe, and feel free to share the video as you like.